it's SamWasteGG here, and today we're going to look at Necro. Just a disclaimer here, this is by no means an endgame Necro video. It is very much for mid-level players who are looking at making that transition from Dragons into Necro. And I just wanted to share my thoughts, my experiences, and hopefully a couple of tips and tricks as well. For me, the reason that I've transitioned into Necro now rather than waiting until I am more at that end game level is because I'm really making a push at the moment on improving my arena status and ranking. And for me to be able to do that more successfully, I really need access to will runes and also to some great Rage and Nemesis runes, which you can only get from Necro. Now, over the past few months, I've really been focusing on giants and dragons. So whenever I put them on that I thought would be really handy for Necro, I put them in storage and kept them there. I've also just been keeping an eye out for any holy heroes and any skill ups that would be of benefit. So for example, Fuka, I pulled him at the very beginning of my gameplay and didn't really know how to use him, but thought I know that a lot of top players did use him at the time, so I thought I'd keep him and just pop him in storage gathering dust. Then a couple of months ago when there was the Blue Lich Holy Heroes, I farmed that as much as I could to get some really good skill ups and popped them in storage until I was ready to 6-star him. Likewise with Lynette, I got her from Holy Heroes about 6 months ago, and ever since then any Magic Knights along the way have gone straight into storage for skill ups for her. Shiwa, same situation there. I've managed to get a lot of skill ups for her along the way and I've just kept them in storage. At one time I thought I would build one of each element, however, based on the monsters that I have now and how I use each of them, I didn't feel that was necessary, so I've used them as skill ups for her. Colleen's a 2-star mon, super easy to obtain, get her from an unknown scroll, and a lot of top players do use her in Rift, so if you choose to 6-star her, she will not be one that you regret by any means. Lisa, she only just made the cut, I'll be honest. I actually 6-starred her and built her for other purposes, so I use her a lot in Guild Wars. I just think she's fantastic. However, I was actually originally going to use Chilling in my team. His first skill is really handy, and that passive as well, so he does put a slow debuff on, which is super helpful. However, in looking at a lot of top players and their videos, the suggestions that they include, they really talk about bringing a mono element team, because the chances of, for example in this team, Fuko is most likely to get stolen. Sometimes Lynette gets stolen, but it's usually Fuko from who the boss steals and imprisons his soul. He's then going to target Chilling, given the elemental advantage, and if Fuko's lucky he could kill Chilling in one shot. If he's unlucky he may then violent proc and again Chilling's dead. Whereas if you bring all monsters of the same element, you don't get that elemental advantage, which means that you're more likely to kill the imprisoned soul before they can kill one of your mons. Really helpful. This team works. For some reason, I'm going to put it down to Fuko's shield. It does work for me. I've also got Lynette there as well. So if either of them get stolen, it's easy for my 3 fireys to then kill them. And if it's one of the others, Fuko can survive long enough for the rest of them to kill. So really helpful in that respect. But just have a think when you're building your team whether it's going to work and whether one person's likely to get targeted. If they are, can they survive it? Now, in terms of debuffs on the boss, a couple of things to be really mindful of if you're not already aware of the mechanics of the Necro dungeon. The first thing is speed. The boss does cap the speed at around 110, I believe. There's been a couple of people that have done some research on Reddit, and it's around, I believe, 110 that you're looking at, which means that any monsters that you bring that have attack bar manipulation, in terms of attack bar buffs, they're not going to work for you. So Vertihile and his attack bar increase, that won't work. Likewise Bernard or Bella. Bella's heal will still work absolutely, but the attack bar buff won't. So what you're wanting to do instead to counter that is bring them on that will put a slow on. That's one of the reasons I have Fuko in my team. He does put a slow on the boss, as you can see here. You could also bring Hua if you have her rune slow and for survivability or full attack without the speed, then you'd definitely be able to use her as well with that speed, that is really handy. Another thing that you need is heal block. because after he attacks you, he will also recover a portion of his HP unless you can counter that. Again, that's part of one of the debuffs that Lynette brings, and Colleen as well on her second skill. Really, really handy there. Now the third thing to think about is that he does have a shield that he puts up around himself, and it takes 7 attacks or 7 shots to get that down. So the ones that you want to bring need to have multi-hits on their first skill. Revenge is really handy as well, so that when your mons get attacked, if they revenge proc, then they will attack that shield a little bit more as well, which is basically just a bonus. Super handy. Another thing to think about as well would be defense break. Obviously defense break is always helpful, but you can only put that on once the boss is down. Once the shield is down. And then anything else is really just a bonus. So an attack debuff is really handy. Glancing hit's really handy, all these sorts of things, but the key ones to focus on would be heal block and slow. Another thing to think about once you're at that point would be, and this is a really good opportunity for me now with free rune removal days, being to make sure that they're well synced and tuned in terms of their speed. So the way that I've got it worked, Colleen goes first, then Lisa. So Lisa does a 2-turn hit on her first skill, Colleen does a 3-turn hit. Already that shield's down, he's got 2 to go. I then have Shiwa who hits, and on her first skill she does 3, which means that she starts to do some damage on her turn. This is obviously assuming no violet procs occur as well. Then Lynette goes, and Fuko is last. The reason I've got Fuko last is because once that shield is down, the imprisoned soul that he takes, he bases that on the person that's done the most damage to him. And given that I'm packing a full fire team, I really want the imprisoned soul to be Fuko. If it's not Fuko, then it's Lynette, and that's fine as well. So if they take Fuko, then it's super easy for me, given that I have 3 fire mons, to kill him pretty quickly and get him back. And that's all part of the speed tuning. Likewise, you want your think about your multi-hitters in the order that they attack, because you really do want your hardest hitters to go last, so that that shield is down at that point, so that they can actually really start doing some damage. They can also get those debuffs on. So Lynette has a heal block on her second skill, which means if my attack order is correct and she goes 5th or 4th, then she can the shield's down, and she can get that heal blocker straight on. Fugo can get that slow on his skill, and they can really start doing some nasty damage to the boss. Just some things to think about. Again though, when you're looking at building your team, there's no reason why you couldn't use Adrian and Hua instead of Lynette and Fuko, for example. Going mono element is super handy. It makes it a lot less risky, I believe. The reason that I've gone for these guys is just because I had them available. I feel like they do add everything I need them to do, but when I look at improving the speed time of my run, I'll probably end up having to go for a mono element team. And that's likely to be fire. When I've used Panda, I've heard that he can be really helpful in Necro, given that he's a multi-hitter as well. Adrian's handy for an additional support mon too, and Hua, that slow is just fantastic. And yeah, she does a lot of damage as well. Super, super handy. If you've got a Hua, consider whether you want to use her or not. The issue is that if you do choose to use a Hua, you'll need to rune her quite slow, just given that any additional speed will be wasted. So you can see here, it's that second box from the left that tells you how long the shield has left. So the shield's down now, I've got to get these debuffs on, I've got my heal blocker on, so the shield's back up, and here we go, let's get a slow on. Come on Fuko. Come on, Fuxie. Oh, yeah, Fuko's accuracy is pretty bad, but it's a good time for me now for a rune removal day to look at improving that. So I've done a little bit of playing around. I've changed the attack order slightly. I'd like Colleen to go first, Lisa second, but Lisa's currently just ahead of Colleen. That's okay though. As long as they're first and second, I'm really happy with that. So now let's see, Colleen, here we go. So get that shield down, now I've got to get those debuffs up. That heal blocker is the most important one to get up at this point. Slow will be really handy as well, but alright. Okay. See now, if you've got a defense break on the boss, then the damage is just insane, particularly for Lynette's third skill, which also has a mini little heal there as well. She can sometimes do nearly a third or more damage to that health bar of the boss, which is so great. And I don't mind if Lynette gets stolen. Alright, the game has just crashed, so we'll leave it there, but please do let me know in the comment section below if you've got any ideas of different teams that you bring. Certainly keen to get an understanding of what sort of teams you're running, particularly if it's not fire. All I know really are great fire mons for Necro. If you've got a different team, please do post below, and I hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.